And don't drop her piece. Then she was really mad.
I was just filming Gail feeding Zeus, and she was saying the same thing over there, that once it hits the dirt, it's done. You guys would never survive in the wild. A lot of people do ask us why we can't set them free, and we have a webpage about that at bigcatrescue.org/go free.
I didn't get hit that at all. This is fun. Usually she's really angry.
What was that?
Alright. Good job. Looks like I stuck some chicken in there too. Whatever she wants. Yeah. She said nope.
Is that Priya?
I think so. I would offer these to your neighbor, but we call her Fluffy. You want some more? Alright. Cameron come out with 5.5 pounds on that den on vacation. I have yet to catch him.
We sound so sad when they moan like that. Thank you. Who's next?
Plus, use that sapphire real quick. That's why she likes me. Oh, I thought she was in the den.
I do. It's Flat Cat again.
You always get my scraps, don't ya? That's it. I know. I'm sorry. Better than nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Now I have super angel again.
All of the cats are fed in the morning. It's just some of the cats that are poor doers, or if they don't eat the breakfast, then they get snacks in the afternoon. The vets are always evaluating and reevaluating their weights to make sure that they're a healthy weight. I never get to see. The cats she's referring to as cubs or kittens are 12-year-olds.
Sorry.
I never get to see the lynx. Yeah, that's true. Karma! Speaking of kittens, Karma is the kitten manager. If you guys watch the Kitten Cabana Cam, she's in charge of picking up kittens from the Humane Society and making sure that they all get snap tested and get their shots.
Did you get your treats? Yeah. Did you get them? Okay. I just checking. I love when they talk back so I don't feel stupid.
Yeah, usually they're just looking at you with that deadpan look.
Did you hear about our hawk rescue this morning?
No. Who had a hawk? Of course it would be. Back to Mary Ann.
Yep. I had a radio call. Mary Ann caught a hawk and it's still in there.
Oh no.
Okay, is it alive? Yes. Oh crap. These things have pretty big talent. And yes, they're bobcats, but at the same time, they're people fed. So I'm like, oh, great. So I come out here and I get the story that Mary Ann was on top of the platform and jumped off the platform and caught it in midair.
Oh my
But they told me it
goodness.
was like the most National Geographic thing they've seen all day.
Oh,
And
too
then,
bad we don't have a live webcam in there.
yeah, and then when she brought it down to the ground, Max came over and took over. So by the time I showed up, he had a mouthful of feathers, and he had it pinned to the ground on its back with its wings spread open. And I was like,
Oh
are you
no.
sure it's still alive? They're like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get a bucket with some food. So I went and got a bucket with a couple chicks in it, because that's easy, just the smaller form of what they had. Marianne was like, yeah, yeah. Had Elisa help me, and she grabbed the hose and all the feathers. And then Jamie and I went in with.
They worked, but that he set up some. Needed to know about surviving in the wild. So she was doomed to a life in a cage. But my daughter, Jamie, had been doing Bobcat rescue, well, big cat rescue work with me since she was 12 years old. And she just couldn't stand the idea of Anasazi spending her whole life in prison. And so she decided to embark upon a Bobcat rehab training program to try and train the bobcats who came here as kittens how to support themselves in the wild and to stay away from people. And we did a test with a bobcat named Faith, and Faith was able to be released on an ecotourism place that was 17,000 acres. And we had a deal with the people who ran the eco tour there that if Faith started getting into trouble and going after farmers' chickens and things that she shouldn't do because of, we could come trap her and bring her back. But she worked out just fine. She never got in trouble. And so since then, and that's been, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, very, very long time ago. Yes, you're so cute. Um, Never seen you hiss at me. So now all of the bobcats who come to us as kittens are able to be rehabbed and released back to the wild. The cat who's usually on this channel that you're watching right now is Cooper, and he's going to be released probably next month. Jamie said today at the staff meeting that she had 2 places contact her with huge tracts of land saying that they would be happy to have Cooper come. And that has been such a change of pace for us, because usually when we're trying to find a place that will allow us to release a bobcat on their land, it's hard. They don't want any part of it. But we've tried to make it a huge media event and get people a lot of publicity. And as it's turned out, now they're starting to contact us and saying, well, we would love to protect bobcats with you. So that's really cool. Oh, aren't you two precious? This is Nabisco, and that's Mrs. Claus in the background. And they're 2 of our youngest cats. Mrs. Claus was a rehab cat who came in, but she had been bitten in the head by something, and she's just never been quite right. So she's not able to hunt on her own or stay out of trouble on her own. So she is doomed to live in a cage. Nabisco came here from another sanctuary, a place that failed up in South Dakota. And because he was raised in captivity his entire life, he can't be released back to the wild. They have to stay away from people or it's not going to work out for them. So unfortunately, he's stuck in a cage. But the good news is that Mrs. Claus is young that she could bond with. We don't put adult cats together because usually adult cats are solitary. We have a whole page about that at bigcatrescue.org/solitary. They don't want to share space unless they were raised together. So having these guys meet each other when they were still very young and impressionable means that they should have a buddy for the rest of their lives. And they've been fixed. We don't believe any cat should be bred for life in a cage. So we want to make sure that there's no accidental kittens. You can see how different they look, being that Nabisco's from South Dakota and Mrs. Claus is from Florida. They almost look like different species of cats. Up north, they're much bigger. They have lighter coats and bigger spots. And here in the south, they have very short coats and very tiny spots. And they're a little bit smaller cats. Sometimes people ask us about our cages. They assume that because what they see on the screen is all that there's going to be of the cage, and that's just not true. These guys have a quadruplex, which is probably close to 4,000 square feet of cages that are interconnected with tunnels. As you just saw, they went walking through one tunnel. Smalls, where are you going, girlfriend? Where'd you go? I missed you. There she is. There she is. They love to turn their tails to you and pee on you because that's how bobcats mark things that are theirs. And so it's a sign of friendliness that they want to pee on you. They try to get them as pets because nobody likes being peed on all the time, unless they're a bobcat, and they love it. And they love it. You don't understand why I'm not thrilled to be peed on. It's been so hot here in Florida, and today has been, well, yesterday and today, there's been a cold front moving in, and so the cats are all a little bit friskier than usual. She's marking that tree with urine to tell everybody this is my tree. You'll notice a lot of the cats have hammocks. Those hammocks are called coolaroos, and the cats just love them. Our supporters have been wonderful in making sure that all of the small cats have hammocks. Big cats can't have them because they'll eat them. That would be terrible. Yes, it would. Smalls is also from that same South Dakota rescue that we did last year. There were 4 bobcats and 2 cougars that we brought in from that situation. And it's one of the situations that we're seeing more and more frequently. Most people do not get these guys as pets. The main driver behind so many cats ending up being displaced, it's usually lions and tigers, is because people will pay to have their picture made with a cub. And those cubs can only be manhandled that way for the first 3 or 4 months of their lives. And then, or worse, yes, or worse. And then the lucky few end up in sanctuaries. But what happens at sanctuaries is, I've heard so many people say this over and over, I can't say no. And if you can't say no, then what you're going to end up doing is being in a hoarding type situation because there's never going to be enough money or funds to take in all of the cats that end up being discarded as part of the pay-to-play trade. You're just marking everything, aren't you? You sure are. So the number one source of cats in need of rescue are facilities that have taken in more cats than what they can afford. And then they end up imploding, and the animals end up in horrible conditions. Woo, woo, woo! Is that what bobcats say? Bobcats say woo, woo, woo! Woo, woo, woo! I'd head back here and see if we see any trace of Pharaoh. Pharaoh is a white serval. You would think, being white, he'd be pretty easy to spot. He's not in his favorite spot. We were fortunate that no cats were injured or released during Hurricane Irma. We did have a number of trees that we lost and some cage damage. In fact, right there, you can see the silver, because we haven't painted it yet to match the rest of the cage, but we had to fix a big piece of crumpled cage there. There he is. Hi. There he is. And we had some damage to our buildings, but nothing awful. It could have been so much worse. Pharaoh is a white serval, and his brother, a white serval named Tonga, lives here too. And that's, even though it's very unusual, it's not something that you would say that's rare or that you should breed for, because just like white tigers and white lions, the only way that that is done is through severe inbreeding of brother to sister, father to daughter, to produce that white coat. Along with that gene that creates the white coat, it comes along with a gene that causes their optic nerve to be wired to the wrong side of their brain, so they're all cross-eyed. Even if they don't look cross-eyed, their vision is cross-eyed. And it comes with a lot of other birth defects as well. Cleft palates, sometimes open spines, really horrible stuff. So it's a bad, bad thing. You never want to go anywhere that you're paying to see a white tiger or a white lion or a white serval, although I think these are probably the only white servals around. I've only ever heard of 2 other white servals. One was their brother, who died when he was probably only 7 or 8 years old. And then a female that died at the age of 4 days in Canada. I've never heard of any other white servals. She's a bobcat who was a pet. People took her out of the wild, made a pet out of her, and then they decided they wanted to have children, and of course she's going to kill any child that comes into the family, so they wanted to get rid of her. Where's Nala? Nala Serval. You're not where I thought you'd be. Across the street there is either Dryden or Kelowna. I'm not sure which. I'm guessing Dryden, because Kelowna is too spooky. She would run and hide if I were this close. She's new here, so she doesn't know that she doesn't need to run and hide. See if we can find Pharaoh's brother Tonga there. He's sleeping up against the cage wall. Tonga, being white, both of them, have more of a propensity for sun cancer. And Tonga had a sun cancer on his nose. At the time, they told us that if we completely removed the nose and got the entire cancer, that he might have an additional 18 months or so. And he's now 5 years cancer-free. 5 years? Yeah. How wonderful is that, Whoopi? Am I interrupting your nap? It's terribly rude of me, isn't it? All right. Those cicadas are so loud. I see 2 groups of cats. I see Tiger Lily. Look at you up there in the weeds. Pretty Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily was rescued from a fur farm. And that's how the sanctuary got its start. Back in 1992, my late husband and I ended up at an auction. We were buying llamas, and the guy next to me was bidding on a bobcat who was only 6 months old, and I told him, when that cat grows up, she is going to tear your face off, because I had done bobcat rehab and release since I was 17 years old. And he said, I'm a taxidermist. I'm just going to club her in the head in the parking lot. And so she was not going to get clubbed in the parking lot, just like you guys. I bid on that cat, brought her home, and of course she was the most horrible pet ever. and scared our German Shepherd half to death. So we figured she needed a friend like herself. Called around. This guy said he would sell us kittens, but we had to come in person. And when we got there, it turned out to be a fur farm. And so it was a horrible situation where they would sell a few as pets and then slaughter the rest of them the next year for their fur. So we came home with 56 bobcats and lynx that day, and that was the start of Big Cat Rescue. We rescued 28 the following year and 22 off of the last fur farm the year after that. And Tiger Lily here was from that group of 22. We have been raking and raking and raking, but it's still a obstacle course trying to get through here with all of the branches down everywhere. Hey, you two darlings. This is Lovey and Thurston. Lovey and Thurston were rescued from the same place in Kansas that Skipper and Gilligan came from, and you may have noticed a trend by now. These all had names from Gilligan's Island. This is the place where the sheriff took over the care of the animals when the owner abandoned them. And then he contacted us and the Humane Society of the United States. And we went in, and Big Cat Rescue took 6 of the cats. HSUS took the tiger, and another accredited or verified sanctuary took the cougar. I don't know if you could hear me just now because I had to hold the camera way up over my head. And a cougar and a bobcat from another facility, and they have since gone home, but that empty cage there was where one of them was living. The bobcat was living. Hi, this is Lakota. Sue and Lakota were rescued from, where were you rescued from? The Mobile Zoo in Alabama. Want to follow me? Yeah? You're very scary. You're a very scary bobcat. I love bobcats. They are the toughest little animal. And of course, the bobcats that I enjoy the most are the ones who come here for rehab and release, because the happiest day of our lives is the day that we can actually set a cat free. We hate that these cats can never go free because they were born in cages, which means they will live out their entire life in cages. Can you see her? This is Breezy. She's up in that little den right there. And I've come full circle in the small cat section. I appreciate you guys coming with me. We were testing out the bit rate. It seems to like 1,000 frames per second instead of the 2,500. It kept buffering before. Is the Ocelot out? Oh, this is so exciting! I never get to see the Ocelot. Her name is Perfection, and she is pure perfection. Hi! I'm going to be really quiet and hope she doesn't mind me sticking the camera. I don't know what you're up to, but I don't like it. I do not like it, lady. Hi, Zukari. This is Zukari. He's a recent rescue. He's a serval. Hey, darling. Zukari came here with 2 caracals from an illegal owner in Ohio. Ohio used to have no laws, and recently they enacted some of the most strict laws that ban the private possession of these animals. People who had them had the ability to register them with the state, and as long as they registered them, they could keep them. But unfortunately, most of them decided they did not want to register. They didn't want the state to know that they had these animals or what they were doing with them. And so the state went in 2 years later and seized the ones that were not registered, and Zukari and the 2 caracals were amongst them. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming along on this test drive. I'm working with the people at Explore to see if this is, oh goodness, what was that about? To see if this is a way that we might want to be able to bring you the cats. And I think a lot of that will have to do with what the video quality is like. I really hate that I can't see your comments. I'd love to be answering your questions, but I will go over to the page where this is playing when I get back to my desk and see if I can answer some of the questions if Luana's not already over there doing that. So thank you, everybody at Explore. Thank you, all you viewers out there. Love you guys. Everybody blow a kiss to Zukari. Say,